Christian Heights, and quite frankly, it's just not the same without all of you folks here with us. We really miss being together, and as we thought about this summer with all the things going on with coronavirus, COVID-19, and isolation and quarantine and all that kind of stuff, we thought we'd have some way to hopefully communicate with all of you how much we miss you, how much we love you, how much we really appreciate Christian Heights Camp, and how it is when we all come together. By the way, if you're watching this video and you're not familiar with camp, we welcome you to come and visit anytime. And I've been with camp for quite a few years. My name's George Brown. I'm one of the members of the board of directors. This year, our directors, who were Amy Peters and Ed Brown, they put together an idea, I think perhaps because of COVID-19, an idea for a theme taken from Deuteronomy 31:6. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to show you something. 31:6 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them." And them was opposing forces. People who were there who were a threat to the people of Israel. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And when we started planning this, we thought, well, we're going to have black t-shirts. We're going to have black be the theme color this year, because for a lot of us, it's been kind of a black time, kind of a down time. Having to do school by online streaming, that wasn't fun for you kids, was it? Trying to do this online was probably not the best idea either. But we thought, well, we'll give it a try. So at least we're doing the videotapes, and you can access these at any time. And I want to show you what we put together. This was the pen that was going to go out this year. And on it, it says, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God goes with you," from Deuteronomy 31:6. You know what? I was thinking the other day, it'd be kind of cool if anybody would like to donate some money to camp, because our bills still go on, even though we don't have a lot of people here at camp. And if you send in a donation to camp, just tell me how many pens you want, and I'll send them to you so we can enjoy them. We have the pens anyway, and it's got the theme on it for this year. I'm going to tell you a story that I hope fits in with our theme. I think everybody knows about David and Goliath, right? That's not a new story. David was quite a man. And after that David and Goliath thing, where David was victorious, David became a great warrior. He led the armies to many, many victories. And sometimes the king, who was Saul, didn't like the fact that David was getting to be so popular. And so he schemed sometimes to take David out. David escaped. He went out into the mountains, went out into the desert, different places. One time he was hiding in a cave. And one of the times when he was out trying to escape Saul, he was in a place where there were some shepherds, and they had a lot of sheep and a lot of goats. And David's 600 men that were with him kind of protected all these shepherds. They didn't steal anything from them. They weren't a threat to them. They were really kind to them. And they made sure that all these shepherds were safe. And so when David heard that the owner of all these sheep and goats, who was very rich, but also very mean, that he was now shearing the wool off the sheep and was going to sell it and make himself even more rich, David said, I'm going to send 10 of you over to see this man, Nabal, and ask him to give us some food to eat, things to drink, because we really have done him a good service by watching out for his shepherds and his flocks. So the 10 guys, they went off to see Nabal. And they came to him and they carried the message that David gave them. Our master David, we took care of your sheep, your shepherds, your goats. We'd like a little bit of food in return. And Nabal said, who's this David? Who's this son of Jesse? Now, by saying that tells me he knew exactly who David was, and he didn't care. He said, I'm not going to give you guys anything. So they went back and they told David, and David was really upset. Remember, he's a great warrior. He said, all right, guys, strap on your swords. We're going to go fix Nabal. And so they started to go. In the meantime, one of the servants of Nabal, who had heard what went on, he went over to Nabal's wife. Her name was Abigail. And he said, Abigail, I think we've got a problem. He told her what happened, and she said, well, tell you what, let's put together a great big care package for David and his 600 men. And so they packed together all this food, put it on donkeys, and started off toward David. And Abigail went out with them. And she went out and met David as he was coming toward them in a ravine. And she bowed down and she said, Master David, I know you're a great warrior. Someday you're going to be a great leader of our people. And don't take revenge on my husband and all of his workers. Here is the food. I'm giving it to you. This story is found in 1 Samuel 25. In the Bible, it tells us that she was a very beautiful and a very intelligent lady who was unfortunately married to a very mean, callous, abusive husband. Think about the courage that it took for her to do what she did. And after she did that, David said, you know what? You are a blessing. We are not going to go in there and wipe out your family, wipe out your estate. We're going to go back to the hills. And she went back home. When she got back home, she found that her husband had been having a big party. So big a party that he was drunk. She said to herself, I'm not going to tell him what happened while he's drunk. So she didn't tell him, and next morning, though, after he got sobered up and she told him what happened, of course, he was irate. He was upset. And his heart, the Bible tells us, turned to stone. And he was so upset that in 10 days, he died. But can you imagine how strong Abigail was, how courageous she was, knowing that her husband was a mean man and it was hard to get along with. But because he died, she was now free. And guess what? When David found out that he had died, he gave praise to the Lord. And he said, servants, go to Abigail and tell her that I would like to have her become my wife. And she became a wife to David, who eventually became a king. Isn't that a fantastic story of being strong and courageous, even when things are tough at home? All of us have things that are tough in life. This COVID thing has been very tough on all of us. Sometimes kids at school are really tough on us. Sometimes our relationship with our friends gets to be tough. And God wants us to know that we can be strong and courageous because He will go with us. And so I want to encourage everyone who's listening to this, to be like Abigail. No matter how rough things are at home, no matter how rough things are in life, let God go with you. She acknowledged God when she went to David. Let God go with you. And I think you'll find some real great blessings of love. We love you guys. We miss you. I got to tell you, the other day, we were driving to camp, and it had just been raining. You cannot believe the big rainbow that we saw. You campers remember that song, Blue Sky and Rainbows? Well, that's what little Mo and I were thinking about as we drove to camp. And like I said at the very beginning, we miss you, we love you, and hey, let's be back here in 2021, eh?